On the season overall, they are 4th in offense. They are 7th in defense. They're 7th in net rating. One of, I think, 6 teams that are in the top 10 in both. There's another one that I want to talk about a little bit later in the pod. But during this 9-game stretch, they're 2nd in offense. They're 8th in defense. They're 3rd in net rating. And if you want to talk about the egalitarian approach, especially with guys kind of in and out of the lineup, they have 10 players averaging at least 8 points. I think it's 6 in double digits as they get this together. And so Dallas hasn't been a completely new team. Like, they are still hitting some similar notes offensively. Like, this is going to be a heavy pick and roll team. No team in the NBA running double drag or double pick and rolls at a higher rate than the Dallas Mavericks. Naturally, when you have Kyrie, when you have Luka Doncic, again, haven't had them that much during the stretch. But when you have those two guys, you have an assortment of screeners that can put strain on defenses. Naturally, you just want to put defenses in the bind and bring those extra guys up. So you're still seeing that, but you have seen more off-ball movement and more off-ball screening. Their off-screen rate is up from last year. It was about 36 per 100 possessions last year. They're flirting around 39 this year. In the minutes and games without Luka on the floor, that rate is up to 43 per 100 possessions. So you are seeing a lot more off-screen usage, a lot more guys attacking off the catch, attacking against tilted defenses in that way. And that's where you have seen so many of the perimeter guys shine. I think Kyrie Irving has had a very underrated / under the radar season. He's been a very efficient scorer. The playmaking has perked up, especially without Luka being there as he's been recovering from injury. I think the reads have been solid. When Kyrie Irving isolates, he still just strikes fear in the heart of whoever is defending him. I believe per second spectrum, it is over 1.2 points per possession on any trip featuring a Kyrie Irving isolation. So when you have the pick and roll package that is still effective, when you're now leaning more into off-ball stuff and you have guys attacking and winning closeouts, and we'll get into that a little bit later, and then your fail-safe, even without Luka being there, is we have Kyrie Irving, who is just one of the best scorers on the planet, and you can't do anything about that. It does give you a blend that defenses aren't really prepared for. And on the other end of the floor, just broadly speaking, Dallas has leaned more into the switching this year. Like, we saw that perk up after the trades post All-Star break last year. They were a top 10 in switch rate last year. They're top 10 in switch rate this year. With their centers in particular, you have seen more switching, but you've also seen just a level of scheme versatility that I've enjoyed. It hasn't always been perfect, but I think it's going to be important for them as they move forward through this season and as they enter the postseason. Because I think ideally, Derrick LIvely is the guy that you peg as the guy that can switch, can be up at the level, can operate in the drop, can hedge out when you need him to. Daniel Gafford more so going to be in a drop, and we have seen him in a deeper drop this year, but can creep up to the level. Like, even watching the Portland game last night, like, there was just a possession where he comes up to the level and he just kind of stays there. It wasn't a hedge, wasn't a blitz. More like contained, was going to stay at the level of the screen. We're going to put 2 on the ball, and you see Dallas's help defense at work. We're peeling in super early. If you have a guy on the perimeter that we do not care about, we are going to show you that we do not care about it. We saw that in the Portland game, saw that in the Utah game. And so being able to mix in that kind of scheme versatility with the fives in particular, I think it's going to help them continue to build out their base. And that's where you've seen the defense be really good during the stretch. It's been very good overall. And so you just have the makings of a balanced team. And now you add Luka Doncic back to the mix, and he darn near had a triple-double last night as we record on a Monday morning. The best case scenario for Dallas is we have the off-ball movement, we have the pick-and-roll play. Luka and Kyrie at any given moment can just say, I'm taking this game over. And defensively, we have a strong base. We can throw different coverages at you. We can cross-match in different ways. Depending on what our lineups are, we can continue to lean into the switching and flatten you out. And because we help as aggressively as we do, and we load up as early as we do, and, I think back to, the Thunder series last year, to where Shea got his, and it was a testament to how good he was, but good Lord, he had to deal with a whole bunch of bodies. It's size up front. It's a bunch of help defenders you got to drive through. Then you have to deal with either Derrick LIvely or Daniel Gafford at the rim on top of that. They just layer their defense so well. And so I've just been really impressed with what Dallas has been able to put together. And if, Luka's able to stay healthy, if the group in general is able to stay healthy, this is a really balanced group, a multi-layered group that should pose problems in the Western Conference.
So we're seeing the blend. We're seeing the formula. We're seeing the execution. I mean, this is a team that has won 8 of their last 9 games, only lost 2, 8 of their last 10. If you look at their last 3 losses, have you seen their last 5 losses? 1-point loss to Phoenix, 2-point loss to Denver, 3-point loss to Golden State, 2-point loss to Utah, overtime loss to Miami.
Yeah, it's just there.
Can I ask, why were y'all panicking?
Well, I think to answer for Mavericks fans, I suppose, like Luka gotten off to his, I guess at this point, his usual just slow start to the season. And so like there were just some loud moments on defense. And if the shot isn't falling, he's not, compensating for that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Luka always revs up, to your point. And with Klay Thompson, you see the value add that he has in terms of the spacing, in terms of off-ball movement. He hasn't knocked down shots to his usual degree yet. And so I guess if you were looking at that plus the center situation to where, hey, what's going on with Lively? Daniel Gafford didn't get off to the greatest start this year. Like, I can see where there was at least some frustration. When you're coming off a finals run, you just want to hit the ground running. So I think that's where some of that just kind of came from.
I asked that to make a larger point. The success you had is not baked into the next season automatically. Mm-hmm. You may not be able to hit those same heights. You might have the same formula. The league might be ready for it. It's not easy. Winning is not easy. So I understand the mindset and the expectations, and we should build on this. Every season is different. Every season presents a different journey. I think for me with this Dallas team, them being able to find the blend in the formula has been really important. I think the Oklahoma City game they had really stood out to me as far as we're back to believing what we do defensively, and we're going to keep executing it time and time again. I think the multiple schemes and being able to toss things out is important for them versatility-wise, because you mentioned Gafford at the level against Portland. You've seen Lively be at the level at times. We can mix in the drops. Being able to switch with both your centers important in the playoffs because that's going to give you lineup versatility on top of the fact that if we actually need to, we can play small ball. Mm-hmm. We have a level of versatility with some of these lineups, with the play of Najee Marshall, with the play of Quentin Grimes, PJ Washington. We could end up mixing and matching some of this down the line if we absolutely have to. So having that in your back pocket is fantastic. I think the point you made about the movement is key. We have more guys we can use in different sets, and we can use that movement to kind of boost our overall attack. And so I think if I had a disappointment with Dallas, it was that at the start, they didn't have that balance. It felt like, okay, we're trying to get Luka going, and which is fair. Luka's an offense to himself. He's going to draw help. We've talked about that time and time again. But do we have the things to let Kyrie get going in a different way? To use Klay, to get Quentin Grimes going. Once you kind of start to get that, and then you run like a random pick and roll for PJ Washington, then he becomes a screener. You start to get that kind of flow. That's when I think Dallas gets really tough offensively. And so I think they're doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, they're fourth in offense, and they're also top 10 in defense. So that's what you want to see. That's a good base. They can continue to build on that, and that's going to set you up for success when it comes to the playoffs. So I really liked what Dallas done.
I like it. I guess just to narrow down into some player shout-outs really quickly. PJ Washington has been such a revelation for this group since he's been there. And he was a big part of why Dallas became as good as they were last year. Had some big moments in the postseason. I still don't quite understand the corner three thing with him, because it's not like he can't shoot. That's just weird. It's his first 2 years in Charlotte. He shot well from the corners, and since then it's been whatever. But getting back on track, this is kind of the PJ that was promised. This is the best case scenario for PJ Washington, where I can knock down shots. I can be used as a screener. I can receive on-ball screens and attack. I can attack closeouts. If you just stash a smaller player on me as a default, because you are accounting real estate to Kyrie or Luka, whoever's on the floor at that time, I now can attack and beat those mismatches enough to where you at least have to think about showing an extra body. And if PJ Washington adds to the mix of guys that can draw two or add an extra, draw an extra pair of eyes of attention, then you're in trouble as a defense. We already got to account for Luka. We already got to account for Kyrie. If Klay is on the floor, even when he isn't shooting well, we can't let him shake free. And if you're using any of those three guys together in action, it's tough. If PJ Washington also becomes and operates within the context of being a walking mismatch, what do I do with that? And then we're always going to have Derrick LIvely or Daniel Gafford lurking around the dunker spot anyway. And so if you do show help, well, that's just a lob over the top. Or if I'm attacking the closeout, if you step up, that's just a lob over the top. And it's just incredibly tough to deal with. And on the defensive end, I started this morning, accumulating what my early, all defense teams and stuff look like. I always do let's get a list of 35 to 40. And then as the season goes on, we chip it down, that kind of thing. And so, I'm not here to... go ahead.
Do you actually chip it down?
I do. That's a good shot, though. I well received. But I don't know, 'cause I'm not finished with it yet, full disclosure. But like, I don't know if I can comfortably make PJ Washington all defense case just firmly, at least not right now. But at the very least, I can confidently say he should be on your like medium to short list. He should be a name that you at least think about before saying no if you're going to say no. He has done a really good job across multiple matchups. And again, this is dating back to when he joined the team. Like one of the earlier things that we talked about post-trade, you hit me with it. Like, hey, Nekias, who's PJ Washington guard in that Thunder game? And it's just him versus Shea. I did not anticipate PJ versus Shea over, regular season game, postseason series, another regular season. I didn't anticipate this being as fun of a matchup as it has been, but it's been cool watching PJ Washington sit down. And to your point about the lineup versatility, the fact that Dallas haven't done it a lot, but the fact that they have been experimenting with PJ at the 5 and it's been working for the most part. Like I think the Luka, Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Najee lineup is a +5 in 24 minutes so far. And then there was like a singular game in which you replace Jaden Hardy with Klay Thompson, or you replace Clay with Jaden Hardy, excuse me. And it's a +9 in 5 minutes. It's like, oh, well, we need to see that again. Again, that's a combined, 29 minutes? So not enough to say definitively, but like you've had success with smaller lineups. And if PJ is going to defend like this, and quietly, and probably just as important, if he's going to rebound like this is a career high in rebounds per game for PJ. If he can actually hold serve at the 5, to your point, you do just have a lot of lineup versatility. You feel good about the Lively package. You feel good about the Gafford package. And that's what PJ alongside those guys. And again, he can be a walking mismatch on that front. You now downsize, you maintain your help principles, you're able to end possessions, and now, offensively, we can go wherever we want to. Najee can drive and just batter folks if you put a smaller guy on him. If you put a center on him, he can be used as a hub, or he can just beat that center off the bounce anyway. If you're putting a center on PJ, as you mentioned, he can be used as a screener. He has the role and the pop threat because he can knock down shots. During this 9-game stretch, he's shooting 50% from 3, not high volume. But again, he can knock down shots. You can just dice up teams in so many ways. I've just been really impressed with what PJ Washington has done. What Najee Marshall has done as a guy that can also just fill gaps on both ends of the floor. #the knife. Quentin Grimes, knocking down shots at a very high level, defending well. It feels like he just hit a lot of crucial run stopping or run capping games. Or run capping threes, excuse me. He's been huge. Steve, you want a stat that may make you smile on the Quentin Grimes front?
Yeah.
Only 57% of his shots are coming from 3 this year.
Hey, look at Quentin Grimes, huh? Looks what happens when he doesn't just shoot threes. Hey, it's a player who can drive and kick and cut. And not to, belabor the point, but I'll ask this question. How often have you been concerned about Dallas's wings this year?
Not that often. Like, I think the closest I get to it has been, it'll be cool when Clay starts knocking down shots.
Think about that context with this Dallas team where a part of the formula was, well, those guys are going to have to make shots. Or, hey, those guys are going to have to make plays. And now you get to a point where you're watching possessions. It's Quentin Grimes on the perimeter driving, drawing help, kicking to like a Jaden Hardy who also drives. Or PJ Washington driving, Najee Marshall driving. You have a drive and kick element, which can be created by them on their own. But again, you have Luka. We can get you in rotation. We have Kyrie. We can get you in rotation. If we have an assortment of guys understanding their role and being able to make teams pay in different ways, that just sets us up for so much more success down the line. So I think that's probably been one of the most underrated parts of Dallas for me. Those guys living up to what Dallas needs and helping expand that formula.
Mm-hmm. Again, PJ's been good. Najee's been good. Quentin Grimes having himself one heck of a season, and during this run, averaging darn near 15 points per game, shooting 48% from 3 on 5 attempts. So he is taking and making the threes, but to your point, you also add in the closeout attacks, or you just add the drives, period. Let me get downhill and kick it to some of these other guys who can make plays. It's been good stuff there. Spencer Dinwiddie, you have to take some of the way he shot that and some of the weight he threw that. But in a vacuum, this is 6'5", 6'6", can get to my spots, can get to the line, can knock down shots. And, through the broader context of Dallas, if Spencer's cooking, Kyrie doesn't have to do everything. Luka doesn't have to do everything. If you're putting those guys on the floor together, it can now be like, let's run double drag with Spencer Dinwiddie, and now Kyrie's your first screener, and insert big, here's your second, and we can just bend defenses in a different way. Spencer can attack, you can kick it to Kyrie, he can attack, or flow into another ball screen. Like, you just have this level of continuity and versatility that's tough to deal with when you have the guard room perform like this. Spencer's been good, Jaden Hardy's been good. And so, again, like, Klay joins the party, and he's already still, he's still being defended like an elite threat when he's out there, as he should be. Once we get another Klay stretch, oh boy,